Hello team and welcome back to the Process Programming CrossFit Games Update Show. We are wrapping up stage 1 of the CrossFit Open. In the studio today with me is Ant Haynes. Ant, welcome.
Thank you.
We are talking about 21.3, 21.4. Ant, your thoughts on the tests themselves?
I actually really liked the combination of the two. Obviously a lot of gymnastics in there, some fairly high volume squatting. For the elite, I think the squatting was fairly kind of irrelevant, but obviously the high gymnastics was a good test there. I liked the complex. It suited people who were in garage gyms, maybe didn't have as much weight available for them, so a little bit more inclusive there. Of course, the complexity of it means that people can't move as much load, and you have to be more technically proficient with the barbell in order to complete a heavier load or, place high in that workout.
And you had to be aerobically enduring because there was no rest period before that second piece.
Correct. But that's the one thing I would say that if I was to maybe see that test again, I would like to change that. Much like the double dumbbell front squat, bar facing burpee, 1 rep max clean they had a few years ago in the Open. I like that one because you had to earn the right to actually hit the heavy lift.
So the difference there was that there was an overall time cap.
Correct.
And the quicker you were able to complete the first part of the workout, then you essentially had longer. Yeah. So there were some people that basically didn't even have a crack at the weight. And I agree. I think what was really cool about that test in 2018 or 17, 18, I think it was.
Yeah.
Was that, there was no chance, there wasn't the ability to sandbag the first part of the workout. You had to complete it well to give yourself the chance to actually hit a heavy load.
Yeah.
And so I think what we talked about in the update show, the workout rundown, was that the leaderboard has now been kind of thrown open. You've got some outliers who, perhaps didn't do anything or did, relatively speaking, poorer scores on 21.3, and we're able just to put some really, really big weight up to 21.4. So I agree. I would like to see that format. Let's just talk about 21.3 really quickly. I did love the variation in movements, having front squats and thrusters, having increasing complexity in the gymnastics, having the 1 minute rest intervals, and then going straight into a heavy lift. Really tested athletes' ability to pace. There was so much strategizing in this workout. I know a lot of people who perhaps were able to do the workout and not limited by fatigue from their first attempt, just with some change-ups and strategy, were able to go much better.
Yeah.
Especially speaking to those who kind of had all the movements in their locker so they could perform bar muscle-ups. If you were someone getting to the bar muscle-ups or beyond the bar muscle-ups, essentially minimizing fatigue and heart rate as much as possible up to that point was a key factor in the ability to move through the third segment as fast as possible. Also ensuring that you weren't under extreme levels of fatigue when it came to the lifting component.
Yeah.
A lot of people kind of just treated them as two workouts, tried to hit that first one as hard as possible, which is important. But given there's no rest period, you go straight into a lift of basically the same muscle groups and same movement patterns. There had to be there's a big part of game in there. Yeah. Let's talk about the overall tests throughout stage 1 of the Open, because we get asked a lot, what do we think of the tests? We talked about in both the update shows, it's hard to comment on the tests until you have the full set of tests in front of you. We now have 3 tests. What are your thoughts? Before I ask you though, folks listening, remember the purpose of stage 1 was to get the best or the top 10% to stage 2. Let's not forget that this is not the CrossFit Games now. This is not where we find out who the fittest person on earth right now is. This is just round 1 of 4 qualifying stages. So with that in mind, and what are your thoughts on the overall test that we saw here?
I was actually quite surprised to see 3 out of the 4 tests for people that were completing them to be done with this similar sort of realm of time. So a lot of it was between the kind of 8 to 12 minute mark for all 3 of the tests. Of course, we're ignoring the strength test at the end there. So I'm surprised there wasn't really a sprint workout. For those people that were unbelievably proficient at the wall walk, for example, I guess it was a sprint for Christian Holter, who was flying through the dumbbell snatches, burpee, box jump. It was a sprint, but for the majority of the community, it wasn't a sprint. Going back to that double dumbbell front squat.
Still very much an aerobic test.
Yeah, for sure. I do like the fact that they did bring in a strength test at the end. I think it was inevitable that they were going to bring it in. Was it a true reflection of strength? Maybe not. Obviously with the complex, but no, I think it was a decent set of tests. There's a lot of different things that still could have been tested within that. Of course, there always is. But it really depends on, as the season goes on, what other tests they throw out. Again, I'm still a little bit surprised they only tested four workouts within the 3 weeks. I would have thought there would at least have been 5, maybe even 6. But no, I think it was a decent test.
Yeah. My opinion is that at the end of the day, the best athletes have still qualified to stage 2. Now, they may not be on the leaderboard, the positions that it used to in past opens when we're seeing a more comprehensive body of testing, but we're still getting the right people there. Now, you're probably going to have some people who never would have thought to ever be qualifying to a stage 2 of a CrossFit Open, also in that position, just given the tests. However, I also quite enjoyed the test because I think relative to what the world has gone through since our last CrossFit Open, which basically has been, less access to gyms than ever before. With that said, more creativity with workouts, more emphasis on bodyweight movements. A lot of people who previously didn't have double unders, probably this year was a year to get them because they had more time than ever to do them. Yeah. People did more burpees than probably ever before, did more dumbbell snatches than ever before. So I actually like the first 2 tests in a sense that it played to the strengths of probably the CrossFit population, which meant they were actually able to probably express what they've been working on. I think CrossFit talk about that a lot. We want to see improvement, which is why we use things like benchmark tests. Yeah. And I think, overall, the majority of the world would have gone better in 21.2, which is a repeat of 17.1. So part of me actually kind of enjoyed and liked what we saw there. Now, talking about stage 2, which we'll finish talking about at the end of this, is that we definitely will probably see more complexity. We'll definitely see kind of opens of the past. I think we might even see a kind of a blend of like a regional style set of tests with a previous open set of tests. So we'll still see some kind of light, moderate barbells. We'll definitely see some high complexity with the gymnastics. We'll definitely see some heavier loads. As to how many tests we'll see, who knows? But, top 10% of the world is a really big chunk of people. Yeah. I think in the men's category, that's, 13,000 plus men qualifying to stage 2 just in the RX division. So looking forward to seeing what we have now. As an athlete yourself, Ant, what did you learn from 21.3 and 21.4?
21.3, 21.4. I think 21 I think those 2 workouts, after seeing a lot of the community in our community and also online, via YouTube and Instagram, I think a lot of people who redid it, like you said, really went a lot better in the second attempt. I didn't think a lot of people really recognized how much fatigue they could start to kind of feel when they got onto the bar muscle ups. And then also, again, it's a skill in itself to be able to lift under fatigue. And when you haven't done that in a long time, it's like a shell-shocked feeling. Your grip's blown up and you're trying to go into it. Your shoulders are smoked from the thrusters and the pulling work on the bar. And then suddenly your legs are smoked from the front squats and thrusters. But I think once you repeat that, the feeling that's going to be there. It's a lot easier to then compose yourself, understand timing on the clock, and then execute from there. So I've seen a lot of people online put up a way bigger score for both the 0.3 and 0.4 portions, which is really cool to see. The last thing you want is to go worse, and there should be a reason why you're doing it again. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love the high complexity and the high reps of the gymnastics works, which are, like you said before, there would have been some outliers from 21.2 and 21.1. I think 21.3 would have really shown who the kind of elite CrossFit crowd would have been, and it gives them a chance to shine a bit more. Yeah.
So I think looking forward now, if your CrossFit Open season is now finishing, you're probably going to be moving into some form of a pre-season or next season's preparation. So what can we take away from this year's CrossFit Open? Well, firstly, nothing is set in stone. We don't have any insight that you guys don't already know. But really what we do in this sport is we take the statistical data from each year and use it to create some projections for the following year. So if we take this year as a body of tests and think about how an athlete would prepare for 2022 if they wanted to do well in stage 1 of the CrossFit Open, what do we know? Well, we know we're going to have to get good with the dumbbell, right? All variations of the dumbbell. We're going to have to get good working that kind of moderate to longer time domain where there's fast turnover of movements. You're going to have to continue to get strong, right? We know that the strength test is probably going to be a part of the body of tests every year now. So it's not just about getting aerobically fit. We need to get strong as well. And when we say strong, you need to also probably get competent with the Olympic lifts. That's something we're probably going to see in years to come.
Yeah.
In terms of gymnastics capacity, a lot of people got bottlenecked in one of these workouts this year, and that just comes down to skill set.
Yeah.
What we've had in previous Open is a number of movements that we pretty much know are going to get tested. Now, the equipment selection for next year may change now.
I was going to say, I'd be very interested to see if that equipment list grows for stage one to allow a better body of tests for stage one.
Yeah.
Because I do have a slight concern that because so many people are moving on to stage two, they've just never been exposed to, it's normally a 95-pound shoulder to overhead. Suddenly it's going to be a 185-pound shoulder to overhead. Like, that is just going to wipe some people out completely.
Yeah.
So it just depends what the tests are. But I think from my personal point of view, I'm looking at like age group qualifiers of the past, and I assume that's what we're going to see for stage two. And those aren't light weights. The gymnastic complexity goes right up there. You see handstand walking, you see high rep ring muscle ups, heavier loads overhead, heavier cleans. So it'd be really interesting to see. But I hope people are ready for stage two. I'm certainly excited for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just don't know if they're going to go, and really test the upper echelons of complexity and loading in this next stage. I think given a top 10% of the world, which is a big chunk of people, huge range and ability levels, I wonder if they're still going to be,
fairly simple.
Yeah, for a chance for simpler movements. For sure, we're going to see some heavier loads, but as to how heavy, just not sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to just finish by talking about kind of, right, if depending on which bucket of people you're in, what is the next plan now? So we'll kind of share some of the things that we're doing with our community. Firstly, if your CrossFit Open is now ending, so you didn't progress to stage two, or you didn't qualify by the teens and the masters of the age groups, really now is your chance to kind of really think about your next season. I would suggest to most people that we take a bit of time away from the sport. And what I mean by that is take away the idea that you need to be getting better right now. We spent probably the last 3-4 months, maybe even much longer than that, focusing on improving ourselves in the sport of CrossFit. It's important that we do give our body and our minds a break away from that mindset of constant improvement. Allow your body to recover, replenish from the year. Really put some thought towards what do you want to achieve in this next year? Do you want to pursue the sport continually? Do you want to do it for fun? Do you want to be a part of a CrossFit gym now? Do you want to move remotely, work with a coach? Do you want to be a part of an online organization? Really take some time and don't dive into your next season just yet. You've got a whole year ahead of you, and some of the decisions you make now in the next 1 to 2 weeks will be some of the most important decisions, for the next 12 months. So, essentially you're going to take a bit of a deload period, take some time away, don't stress, do things that you probably haven't been doing for the last 3-6 months, and then make some decisions and either do what you did this year or make some changes. If you're someone who has now qualified to stage 2 of the CrossFit Open, now is not really the time to be deloading necessarily. I know you probably feel like you do need to deload and you want to take a bit of a break, but we know that the stage 2 qualifiers are going to be coming out not this weekend, but the weekend after. That's not long. So really this week is your chance to kind of expose yourselves now to movements we're probably going to see in stage 2. Rather than trying to think about how do I get fitter now in the next 2 weeks, it's more about
proficient with the movements.
Proficiency, efficiency, building confidence with the movements, dialing in skill, and keeping yourself healthy. Yeah. I think that's really important. Don't just smash yourself the next 2 weeks now, and when the tests come out, you have nothing to give.
Yeah.
And I think, the last one is kind of if you're in that Masters or that age group qualifier, you're not starting until May 5th, so you pretty much have, almost over a whole month now. So I would recommend probably taking this week just to kind of take it easy, deload a little bit as well, let your body recover, especially masters athletes, typically a little bit less resilient, need to be really honed in with things like recovery protocols. Sure. And then your kind of next 3 to 4 weeks is going to be focused on prepping yourselves for the masters qualifiers. You still got a bit of time to get fit. You got a whole month. So not only is it about building confidence, proficiency with the movements, but kind of actually working on perhaps even striving for some adaptations there. Yeah. Let's talk about what we're doing with the process programming community. Because we have a really big range of people all in different buckets. We're trying to cater to everyone. So for those folks who have not made it to stage 2 of the CrossFit Open, they're going to be deloading this week. And then we're essentially starting our new preparation phase for 2022. What I do know for our athletes, we are going into more of a strength bias training block, touching on movement patterns we haven't been touching on for a really long time, but we are also adding some accessory programs. And just give us a real quick rundown on what we're going to be doing there.
Yeah, so we're going to give athletes a choice to kind of allow themselves to almost specialize a little bit with their with their accessory work. So we're going to offer some endurance work twice a week, which adds on top of what you already do for the Live, Perform and Compete program. We're going to have gymnastics bias work, so the stuff that you would generally see within the sport, and it, of course, that all comes down to absolute strength as well, like you've been speaking about. So we're going to really strip it all back and start from the bottom and build up the complexity with these accessory programs as well. We have our functional bodybuilding style work, which is just kind of well-rounded strength gains on the body and just continuing to bulletproof the body as much as we can as we step forward in the season. And of course we have a barbell kind of specific accessory program, which will be focused of course on the clean and jerk and the snatch, if people would like to focus on that a bit more as well with the accessory work. Yeah,
I think what we realize as the programming team is that the Open is such a unique opportunity because people come out of it really knowing what they need to work on next year. And whilst a generalized group training program is fantastic, people often want to further individualize their training, so that's what we're going to try to do. So those guys, again, deloading this week, then we're starting a new program next week. Our Compete program is going to be catered to those moving on to stage 2 of the CrossFit Open. So this week they are exposing themselves to things like rope climbs, GHD sit-ups, wall balls, rowing, handstand push-ups, handstand walking, moving between distance. That's going to be the focus for this week. We're going to taper them out a little bit next week, and they're going to hit the stage 2 qualifiers. And if we have people that qualify to semi-finals after that, then we will be creating a program for those guys. And lastly, our last category is our Teen and Masters qualifiers. We do have quite a few of our clients who have qualified on to the next chapter. Again, they have over a month now. So we're going to be actually creating a specialized program just for Masters and Teens athletes, which will basically be prepping them for May the 5th, which is when their workouts come out. So if you're not a current part of the process programming and you're looking for a bit of direction, you've qualified to stage 2, or as a Masters teen athlete, we'd love to have you. We do have a 14-day free trial, so if you're just thinking about checking us out and working out if this is a program that aligns with your goals and what you're looking for, we'd love to have you. Otherwise, you can always reach out to myself and the rest of the team, and we will answer any questions you have. To close us off, just wanted to say well done to everyone who took part in stage 1 of the CrossFit Open. It is not an easy thing to do. You're putting yourselves out there, choosing courage over comfort, and we massively applaud all you guys for doing that. If you're moving on to stage 2, or the Masters and Teens qualifiers, congratulations to you guys as well. Awesome work. For those last 2 buckets of people, keep yourselves healthy. The season is just beginning. We got loads ahead of us. Both myself and Ant will be back to talk about the stage 2 qualifiers and the Masters qualifiers, and hopefully help you guys along the way. Thank you so much for tuning in over the last few weeks. And Ant, thank you so much for you being a part of this.
Appreciate it.
And we'll see you guys here next time.